It's your weekly date with the Ref Show. Welcome along. We have Brian Deane and the return of Keith Hackett as well on the programme this week. Last week, we had a big match performance from a referee in Manchester United, Liverpool. In the big match this last weekend, we had a poor performance from the referee in charge. We'll analyse why, but there are plenty of good performances as well and some good interventions, assistant referees genuinely assisting the match official in the centre. But there's only one place to start with you guys, and that is the game at Stamford Bridge, which everybody's still talking about. Arsenal's 2-0 defeat at Chelsea. Mike Deane, normally very reliable, was in charge of this one. Diego Costa, by common consent, should have been sent off. Before we go to the expert here, let's go to Brian Deane and see if he agrees with that statement. Absolutely.
I think, especially in today's game, you know, what he did for me was a sending off. You know, on several occasions as well, you know, he was caught putting his hand across players' faces quite aggressively as well. I mean, we've seen in the past where Affalay at Stoke got sent off for something which was ridiculous. But I think with regards Costa on Saturday, there was definite intent there to hurt his opponent.
This was with Koscielny. They were tangling together. There was the hand in the face of Koscielny by Costa. It sparked all kind of things then. Gabriel gets involved and gets sent off, one of 2 red cards. What's your take on the whole incident there, Keith, and maybe the ramifications of it?
Well, I would have liked Mike Deane, the referee, to have been a bit more proactive leading up to the particular incident. You know, you've got to be active in those big games, get in early and prevent and hold it so that players are aware of the referee's presence and that he's in control. Some years ago, I sat with the LMA and the PFA and we agreed that we would put out an instruction which was pretty draconian at the time, and that was where a player put his hands in the face of an opponent, right, that would be a red card. It was that draconian in an effort to stop this type of incident. Now, given the fact that last week this player got away with hands in face, I'm a little concerned that there is this drift that comes in. A player cannot put his hands in the face of an opponent in the way that Costa did, and then use his flailing arm, if you like, in a backward movement as a weapon to possibly sustain injury to his opponent.
Certainly an opportunity for the FA to act on incidents like this. I know that that's your view that they should. But what about the source of this? I mean, the source of this is this holding and pulling and what we term grappling, isn't it, in the area? That's the whole spark for that incident, Brian. What's it like for a striker who's being held?
Well, I mean, you know, a defender's job is to stop, isn't it? And sometimes they take it literally. And so if you're a forward and you're trying to get across your defender and he's holding you, you don't have much option other than to try and wrestle yourself free. And invariably it means that your arms are going to be flailing. Now, that's different, trying to get free of somebody who's grabbing you like that to somebody who's actually looking to see where his opponent is and put one on him.
Is the problem the referee's only seeing the second one, the striker's reaction, rather than the initial holding, Keith?
I think this viewing angle awareness that what's going off is part of the problem. I don't think Mike, you know, in the flick of a second, actually saw it clearly. That's why he didn't act. Television, of course, when you play it in slow motion with lots of these challenges, it highlights, if you like, the difficulty that the referee's got, because when we play it slow-mo, we see it so clearly. I believe that knowing what happened the previous week, and knowing Costa as a player, as we do as spectators, Mike should have been aware of that. And I think ultimately, if he's done his own work, he keeps one eye on it. And I think it could have prevented an escalation of a problem and the dismissal of the Arsenal player. One, if he'd have seen this and acted upon it, and giving Costa a red card.
Some strong comments over the weekend, not least from RefCam. Glenn Turner, highly respected on there, said he felt it was unacceptably poor from all the officials at that match. And Arsene Wenger, the Arsenal manager, said he found the whole thing unacceptable. Mike Deane, we praise him a lot here. Is he having the best of seasons? Guy Beale made a point over the weekend that he'd done a RefCam on him earlier this season and had felt his standards were beginning to slide a bit. Do you agree with that or not?
I think certainly this weekend, I thought for a very big game, he wasn't up for that game in the way that we would expect. I mean, reflecting in the same weekend, we saw Clattenburg absolutely on his tiptoes, floating around the game, in charge, in control, understanding the teams in front of him and dealing with the players, communicating well. The difference between the two, of course, is that Clattenburg is a proactive referee. You know, he doesn't react to situations. He sees them as they're coming and prevents, in many occasions, an escalation.
So you feel maybe he should have been on that game, rather?
Well, I think that Mike is a good enough referee. He's just had an off day. You don't want an off day on a big game. And I think his style of refereeing, which tends to be reactive, you know, that's seen in his card count. He has a high card count because he's dealing with things that if he'd just get in a bit earlier, it could possibly prevent. If he did his own work, it could prevent.
You mentioned Mark Clattenburg. Also, he presided over a very entertaining game. I'm sure he contributed to that. It was Manchester United's 3-2 win at Southampton. One of the goals there, according to RefCam, should have been disallowed. It was an offside call, but that was Simon Beck. But you can't fault Clattenburg for that. There were some good things from assistants over the weekend. I don't know what you thought, Keith. I mean, two instances here. Spurs-Leicester, Andre Mariner was in charge. He brought in an assistant referee, that was Dave Bryan, for a penalty award there, which clearly proved right. And there was another one, Swansea 0, Everton 0. Stuart Atwell was assisted, didn't actually see, I don't think, Kevin Morales' illegal, dangerous stamping challenge on the sidelines. Adrian Holmes, the assistant, alerted him to it. Is this the kind of thing that we want to see more of, do you think?
Well, I think it's about balance, because I think even in the sending off of the Arsenal player, it looked to me as though Mike was communicating with his assistant, who probably informed him that the Arsenal player had back-kicked his opponent, hence the red card. So I think, yes, that's what they're there for. They're there to assist the referee. And I think that providing the balance is right, the referee's still got to have a degree of authority that says, fine, I'll listen to what you say, but I'm not accepting that I need to take this particular action. You know, this is about experience. The referee often has much more experience out in the middle and a feel than the assistant on the sideline. It's the referee that takes it on the chin. But I still want to encourage assistant referees to keep that communication going with the referee and say and keep him informed of things and how they're developing off the ball.
Does it change the mentality of a player, Brian, if he knows that assistant referees are vigilant or more vigilant than they have been? In other words, they're not going to get away with stuff that they thought the referee couldn't see.
Yeah, I think you have to. They have to be now. You know, there's eyes everywhere, and so because of that, you know, a player knows that he has to stick to the rules within the law, which I think is good.
Generally, over the weekend, there were less headlines in other games, and really just the one headline game as far as referees are concerned. I mean, you've got Liverpool 1, Norwich 1, Anthony Taylor, I think he did well, Bobby Madley, West Ham's shock 2-1 win at Manchester City, Martin Atkinson, reliable as ever, West Brom's win at Aston Villa, Roger Rees, Newcastle, Watford, Kevin Friend, we'll be relieved about this, no headlines, Bournemouth 2, Sunderland 0. So how do you sum it up overall? We've got to praise, haven't we?
I think that it was a good. I mean, the PGMOL will be sat this morning cooing about their referees, because I think effectively most of the communication and commentary that was going on was about players, and that's how it should be, and not refereeing decisions. Some of the errors that were made were clearly, you know, where it was important to get it right. I mean, the offside goal by Manchester United. That really, on another day, could have been an important call. But I think overall it was a good weekend for referees. Yeah.
Now, but it's the first time you've come in here, Brian, and we've sort of said, well, there's only the one match where we've got to put a referee under pressure. It's refreshing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, if you think about the incident, it has got everybody talking, hasn't it?
It certainly has. And in the second half of the Ref Show, do rejoin us for that. We'll talk in a bit more detail to you, especially Brian, as a former Premier League striker of many clubs at that level, about the mentality and the style of Diego Costa and what would have happened maybe to a player who played like that in your day. You were telling us off air about that. It'll be interesting to get your thoughts on air on that particular thing. So do rejoin these guys, Keith and Dino here, for the second half of the Ref Show.